think that there are, as long as there's a dominant of white European folks attending, there are going to be some clashes between people who are not. And so with the increase in the international students and people coming from other places, other ethnicities, I think it's natural for there to be clashes. And there's, lots that we can do about that. It's an educational institution, so I feel like it is the responsibility of the university to make it a good learning environment for everybody.
Yeah, I would say so. Overall, I feel like a lot of people are kind of tolerated, if that makes sense. So, like, I think people want to say that they're open, but when it comes to like interactions with people and just like attitudes towards certain groups, it's not. I wouldn't really say there's acceptance there, and I think there's this want to be sort of colorblind, and I think that's a problem because it's like you shouldn't try to erase who a person is.
I think that everyone is equal, and I don't necessarily see race, but I see other people that think that it is a problem, that think that because I hang out with white people, that I'm including myself from my Black culture.
For whatever it is, whether it's religion or where you come from or race or gender or sexuality, that those different things bring about real differences in people. And I think a lot of people often, there's a lack of awareness about that difference and the fact that everybody has different life experiences, and that creates real differences in people. So I think that's part of it. And then I think whenever I hear about cultural acceptance or cultural diversity, one thing that comes to my mind is like systemic oppression, and that being that whenever someone falls into a minority category along the lines of like gender and race and sexuality, that they'll face a lot of disadvantages in life, whereas someone who is in the majority would have certain privileges. And so I think that's another piece of awareness that would be important.
I definitely feel like our international students are really ostracized as the easiest, targetable group of people. They stick out pretty easily because, for one, they have the different appearance, and even the American Asians would probably stand out from them just because they're pretty cliquey, because there's not much acceptance of them within the student body at Iowa. And sorry, as far as the most pushed out group there is, I'd probably say it's the international students from China.
I don't know. I live in Mayflower for my first year, and at first nobody in my floor would like to talk to me because I'm the only Asian in that floor. But when they after a few weeks, when they know me better, they try to started to talk to me, and they told me oh, you're funnier than I thought. You're not that Asian, So I asked them, what do they what do they mean by Asian? They're Asian are nerds. Asians are they're boring. They don't go party. They don't participate to any social events. They just stay in their rooms and study.
The UI Hawkeye Probs on Twitter, I used to follow that, and it just got to be a little bit too much. The making fun of the Asians, and it just really, it kind of hurt me a little bit. I know I'm not Asian, but just hearing those comments and how the people who tweet, they look at that as okay, but it's everyone knows if they were to say something about the Black people on campus, that would be bad. So I kind of feel like people kind of target the Asian population as sort of it's not as bad, or I know sometimes they're referred to as the invisible minority, and I feel like that is what that is how they're being treated here. And I think there's a problem, especially when people look at the Asian population as a whole and like don't take into account, you know, the different ethnicities and nationalities, and how some of them are international, some of them, you know, are born here, and just kind of painting them with a broad brush. And I don't like that.
Not necessarily discriminated on or against. I did have one experience actually in one of my classes where the comment of African American or black people came up, and they did phrase it that way. It's African American or black, I don't know what to call them, and it was a comment made by the instructor, and I was the only black person in the class, and everyone looked to me like I would have the answer, you know. And those kind of conversations kind of come up every day for a lot of people, but they don't come up necessarily in mixed groups as often as they should. Those conversations should be had, you know, because I would prefer to be called one or the other. You know, I'm not necessarily African American, I'm only American, I was born here. So technically I would prefer to be called black.
To me personally, but in workshops.
Okay.
I've heard many stories.
Okay.
Yep. And in groups, or like I'm the co-chair of the LGBT Staff and Faculty Association, so you know I hear a lot of things. So I know it's there.
There's a lot of nonverbals, you know. So like when you enter a room or the classroom, library, for instance, and it's like you kind of get this vibe that like you're not really wanted, or people are just like, whoa, like what are you doing here, you know? So just kind of those things and how it affects, you know, your mental health and how you view yourself, and yeah.
I don't really feel disabled until I realize that I'm dependent on something like a door opening when I press the button or something like that, or like an elevator working. Those types of things really matter in my daily life, and I don't really feel like I'm not accepted until something like that is malfunctioning. I depend a lot on technology.
So there was a time when I was with some people in someone's dorm room, and there was someone in the room who was an Asian foreign exchange student, and someone else in the room said that they believed that all of the Asians at the University of Iowa were the dumb Asians, and so that was a pretty explicit, in my mind, form of discrimination.
When I board the bus over there, the campus or any other buses, we see that people sit segregated, and also I hear like some racist remarks probably against some of the Asian students about that. So maybe that is because they are not too aware of cultural competency issues.
I mean, you can just be on the CAM bus and overhear kids talking. I mean, you should just the amount of racism targeted to this group of people it's almost upsetting to me. Like, people think that it's okay because they don't know them. You can just be completely discriminatory against them.
Well, one good thing is that they now have adopted and are a campus affiliate of the National Coalition Building Institute, which is an international organization that's has been working for 30 years to end racism and discrimination around the world. So now that we're a campus affiliate and have been for a few years, there have been at least 24 workshops, maybe more, on this campus specifically addressing those issues. And so any staff, any faculty, any student can sign up for them on the staff development website and start that process.
I don't think they are taking any action against this issue. They don't even see it as a problem, and they're not aware of it.
As far as Americans go, you just kind of need time. I mean, you saw how terrible response people had to the Coca-Cola commercial in the Super Bowl, And that was a gorgeous thing to me. I mean, we're a melting pot of cultures, but it has to melt into the pot. It just takes time to have it melt and have this kind of, I don't know if I want to say ignorance, but also kind of just like a fear of the unknown. Like, they don't know these people. They don't know what they like, what they don't like. And I guarantee a lot of their interests are the same. It just takes time for us to realize that.
So I'm of the affirmative action category of people that feels that we should make every effort possible to do that kind of outreach and recruitment, because it's only by changing the power structure and the people who have influence over student learning that's going to change the culture on campus. And we are making strides, but it's extremely slow. We have to make it attractive for people to want to be here. And if you don't feel welcome and you don't see yourself reflected in the faces of the people that are teaching you, why would you want to be here?
I think that some of the changes I would like to see, maybe less jokes on campus, and maybe less. Oftentimes, I think there's sort of natural segregation on campus. I think some of those things would be addressed if there were more awareness raised about cultural diversity and cultural competency.
Then I also get emails from people who are like, why do we have to talk about this? Can we take a break? Like, I got one last week too, actually, about like someone, race topics, day, week in, week out, like, it's tiring. And I just had a problem with that because, like, I don't find writing about these things tiring. Like, I like to write about them because I'm passionate about it, and it just kind of goes to show that people don't want to deal with it, and my thing is, if it's tiring for you to read articles about, like, racism, one, don't read it, I guess, and then two, it's like, I feel like reading it and living it, they're two different things.
I would like to see, just more of a, there's people out there that they talk to me like, when they talk to me, they're doing their one good thing for the day, or they're like treating me like I'm normal.
To be just excited for who they are and excited that their differences, that we all have them, that we all have differences, and that it makes us united instead of, separate and divided. I mean, I think that people should embrace themselves in whatever way that they are. And namely for me, I am a mix of a variety of things, and that makes me just as unique as everyone else. But I'm still a part of the community.